is Sibi Joy, and I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining us for this event. Now, I'm sorry that we had a little bit of a technical delay, but we're all good to go. And I'm sure that you're all excited to hear what is the pathway to civil services. Now, I was insistent on using the word pathway because while many are aware about what is the civil service and how to achieve it, we must understand that the trail is a bit long and difficult if one does not have a path. While it would be easy to go through one's hard work and determination, let me tell you, a well-founded way, a well-founded trail with each landmarks and milestones would make your journey very much easier. So it is with this idea that I would like to start this presentation by saying, what is the pathway to civil services? Now, we have a very mixed crowd over here. We have parents, we have students, college students, school students. So just bear with me. I'll be giving you a brief introduction about what is this exam, what is the scope of this exam, and we'll be going directly into what we are going to, what the civil services entail, what you're supposed to do, what is this exam, and how can we clear this exam and, go towards our goals and achieve success. So without any delay, I'd like to go for that. So what is the pathway to civil services? Yes, that is what I'm going to discuss. What are we discussing today? Now, our time is very valuable. So I'd just like to say what we are discussing today. The first is, what is the scope of civil service? Second, what is the specialty of this exam? Third, details of the civil service exam. What do they encompass? What is the syllabus? How do you bring them together? How do you clear this? Then the fourth one, myths, misconceptions. Now, we live in a society where the rumors and lies travel faster than the truth. So it is of the utmost importance that one gets an idea of what is the reality, what is the ground reality, and ignores the myths and misconceptions that surround this exam. Finally, we'll have a discussion about the required skill sets and attitude that is needed for an aspiring civil servant and how we can inculcate these habits that will help us to achieve our goal. Then, how to prepare. Now, this is something the present situation warrants, because with the advent of the coronavirus pandemic, that many coaching institutions and many other places of study, libraries included, have closed down. So how can we do it? Can we do it in an online method? Can we do it in an offline method? We'll be discussing all of them. We'll be giving you a very detailed strategy on what can be done by any person. What can a school student do? What can a recently fresh graduate college grad can do? What a person who's working, who's in a professional working environment, what he or she can do. Let me tell you, we will be giving a breakdown analysis of each and every possibility so that it is helpful for each and every one of you. Finally, we'll be having a chat about the major benefits that will help you. What are the major benefits that you're going to achieve when you start preparing for your civil services. And finally, we'll be having a Q&A session so that you can ask your doubts, you can ask your queries, you can ask me what you need to make sure you get your clarity of thought in this. So we'll be going for this. First, let me tell you, what is the scope of civil service? Now, commonly, we know that it's IAS, IPS. A few people do know IFS, Indian Foreign Services present. That is something known as the Indian Revenue Service. But let me tell you, civil services, there are 24 services. 24 services where there are Group A services, there are Group B services. Apart from this, there are also other services which, while not well known to the common man, they are highly needed, highly specialized in nature and necessary for the India as a country. A few services which many people may not know: the Indian Ordnance Factory Service, the Indian Trade Service, the Indian Information Service, the Indian Foreign Service, the Indian Audit and Account Service. So many valuable services whose names, whose professionals, bureaucrats we are not aware of, but they form the part of the steel frame of our country. They are the ones who hold this country together. And this idea, and the idea of joining the civil services, is to make sure that you are also a part of the steel frame of our country, which will hold this country together. Now, to the common man, IAS, IPS seems to be a dream. Let me tell you, each and every service forms a very, very crucial role in stabilizing our country and in ensuring that our country grows towards a better society and a better nation. And there are IAS, and like I said, there are IAS services, there's IAS, there's IFS, there's IPS, there are Group A services and Group B services. Apart from that, what about the vacancies, sir? Is this available for all? How many seats are available? Let me tell you, on an average, the number of vacancies over the last few years has been just below 1,000. So definitely every year 1,000 candidates, almost 1,000 candidates get selected into the prestigious civil services. What about the salary and perks? The highest India has to offer, the highest the Indian government has to offer, that is the salary and that is the perks which is given to the civil servants. And one important thing I'd like to tell you while talking about the scope of civil services is it is a level playing field. So in this present scenario, we may think like, okay, I come from an engineering background, I come from a medical background, I come from a humanities background. Is that a factor while looking into civil services, looking into a career for civil services? Definitely not. The Indian government has set an eligibility criteria of just graduate. It doesn't matter what graduate you are in. They have just asked for a graduate. So please understand, being a graduate is the only eligibility criteria that the Indian government has set up. You do not have to change that eligibility. All you need is to be a graduate. Apart from that, so it's a level playing field for all. They do not look at your past, they do not look at your previous achievements or something. They just need to know whether you are a graduate and whether you are willing to put in the effort to clear this exam. So that is the scope of civil services. We'll go for what happens or what is the specialty of this exam. What happens when you clear this exam? Now, if you look at the PPT, I've said serving the society, being the tool of change, elite service up to cabinet secretary, exposure, diversity of work and career growth. These are fancy words. I'd like to give an incident of what a civil servant can do. Pame Armstrong is an IAS officer. Pame Armstrong is referred to as the People's Collector because he built the People's Road, a 100-kilometer road, by involving the people themselves in building it. So a remote locality did not have a connection with the main transport areas, so those people were struggling. So Pame Armstrong formulated a plan. He involved the people themselves in the manual labor, and he himself involved himself in building the road and the infrastructure development, thus leading to a 100-kilometer road built by the people for the people. That is why it's known as the People's Road, and Pame Armstrong was one IAS officer who was responsible for that. I would like this is just one among the many examples that I know. Personally, look at your states. You can see the ability of IAS officer, IPS officers during the crisis. When the Kerala floods happened, when the floods happened in Mumbai, when the floods happened in Chennai, during the organizing many famous meetings or receiving many personalities, all of them are organized by the civil servants. You will become the best when you join the service. So you want to serve the society, this is the platform you have to be. Do you want to be the tool of change? Yes, this is one of the finest opportunities to be the tool of change towards building a better society. Do you think you can reach a higher position? Yes, the highest position the civil services offer is the cabinet secretary. Exposure, you will be working from one breadth of India to the other. From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, you'll be working. If you're in the foreign service, you'll be working from the North Pole to South Pole. So many different opportunities, so many diversity of work, and it's a career service. You join it till the age of superannuation. You have an opportunity to work towards the country and serve the society. Is that an opportunity for growth? Yes, it is. If that is not, I don't know what else is an opportunity for growth. What else? Now, I told you about the civil services. I gave you an output of it, an outline of it. Now the question is, what is there in this exam? Is this exam easy? Is this exam difficult? What exactly is this exam? Now, these are very common doubts which may seem very, very easy to answer with the help of Google or any other search engine using the internet. But personally, I felt that while we are using that, we do miss out on certain key points, and we may get a wrong idea or a misconception about what this exam is all about. So I'll just go into the details of the civil service exam, what it is. So first, it is conducted by the Union Public Service Commission, which is a constitutional body of the Indian government. It's an independent body which conducts this UPSC Civil Services examination. So it's one of the top government exams in the country. It's one of the most toughest exams in the country. And what does it offer? Group A, All India services, Group B services. What is the eligibility? You need to be a graduate. That is the education eligibility. And in the age for general category, 32 is the maximum age limit, and over and above that for the other categories. Now, you may again think, I am a bit old. Shouldn't we join young? Or am I a bit more, is this career good for me? Let me tell you again, similar to education, the idea is the Indian government has set the age as 32. when the government itself sets the age as 32, let me tell you, if they are okay to take in people of age of 32, then your dreams are not over at the age of 25. Neither are they over at the age of 30. Neither are they over at the age of 32. You just need to get yourself going. And if you want to go for it, go for it. See, there are two options in one when you go for civil services. You can make it a one day. You can become a civil servant one day, or you can take this day as the day one. One day or day one. That is your idea. You can choose what you want. You can start your journey from today towards achieving your goals. And I just want to be a pioneer, or maybe a pathfinder for you, so that it will be a better guide for you to achieve your goals. Now, attempts and pattern of UPSC. Unlike the other Public Service Commission exams of the CA, there are 6 attempts for the general category. Depending upon each category, it varies. And the pattern, unlike many exams, and very commonly similar to other exams also, it has a preliminary part, it has a mains exam part, and it has the personality test. And each of the exams you can go only by clearing the previous one. And unlike the other exams, there is no cutoff, rather it is a percentile. So I'll go in detail about it. So going into the structure of the exam, let me tell you something. Around 10 lakh people apply for this exam. Maybe 5 lakh write it on an average. So how do they take it? UPSC does not look at any fixed marks. They want the best India has to offer. Please understand, they want the best India has to offer. So when this exam is done, all the marks are tallied, they take it from the top. There is no fixed cutoff. So on an average, UPSC may take 10,000 plus candidates for clearing the prelims. So 5 lakh people have, 10 lakh have applied, 5 lakh are writing this exam. From the top, they'll be taking the top 10,000. Just the top 10,000. Your goal is to be in the top 10,000. There is no other option. You need to be there in the top 10,000. So is it difficult? Quite possible. See, if you can or if you cannot, both of them are right upon the perspective of the person who's listening to this. So the idea over here is to make sure that you have a very clear-cut strategy so that you can clear the exam. So preliminary exam, I told you the top 10,000 will be clearing it. What is there in the preliminary exam? Like if you look at the slides, I've said GS. GS stands for General Studies. CSAT, CSAT, Civil Service Aptitude Test. So what is GS? What is Civil Service Aptitude Test? GS is the common, the general studies, the what we learn in our school. History, geography, economy, polity, environment, and other current affairs too. Now, apart from this, there are current affairs also involved in this paper. Civil Service Aptitude Test, or CSAT, talks about math, reading, English, and logical reasoning. Now, all these are fancy words. To be, if you have to go deeper into it, I can simply say it to be something at the 10th standard level. That's it. Whatever is there in your 10th standard level, those are the questions being asked. You want the books you are supposed to read for your general studies, for your history, for your geography, for your environment, for your economy, for your polity, all of these are from your 10th standard books, or maybe your 11th and 12th books. You do not need to have a bigger knowledge than that to clear your preliminary exam. But then you may ask, sir, why is it so difficult? The questions are taken from that, but they will take only the top 10,000. So the onus is upon the person who's preparing and writing this exam. They must put in the efforts to be in the top 10,000. And that is the strategy, or that is the pathway you must be able to identify. How can you be in the top 10,000 to clear the prelims? That is what we are offering. That is what that is the aim that you should be having. That is the goal you should be striving for when you try to clear the preliminary exam. Now, I told you about the general studies part. Like I said earlier, I'll again repeat it. It has history, it has geography, it has polity, it has economy, it has environment, it has science and technology, it has international relations, and as the final topic, you can also put current affairs. Current affairs, use your newspapers, read those good quality magazines like Yojana and Kurukshetra, which will provide you with ample knowledge about what is happening in and around us, in the society, and also in the world around us. So that is the idea of GS and what are the subjects inside them. Civil Service Aptitude Test, CSAT. Reading, you will have English, You'll have to read a paragraph. There'll be a question asked upon that. There will be 4 options. You have to mark it. There'll be math, max of 10th standard. There will also be logical reasoning and aptitude, or simply you can say max and logical reasoning. All of them are at the level of 10th standard. Is it difficult? Not at all. One more thing you have to look at the CSAT exam is, it is a qualifying paper. You just have to pass it. For example, if you are writing the preliminary exam, you have a general studies paper, you have the civil service aptitude test, CSAT paper. In the CSAT paper, you just have to score 1/3 to clear this exam. The marks are just have to score 1/3 and above. For example, the CSAT paper is for 200 marks. So 1/3 is 66.66. You have to score more than 66.66 marks and you clear the CSAT paper. They don't bother about that. It doesn't matter you score 200, it doesn't matter you score 68 marks. You just have to be over the 1/3 cutoff. So note that it is just for the civil service aptitude test. You just have to score more than 1/3 of 200, which is 66.66. What about general studies? It's a 200 mark paper. You have to score good marks, and those marks are calculated while taking you from the top 10,000. Like I said, it's an approximate number. 10,000 is just an approximate number. You have to be in the top 10,000 to clear it. And if you score very well in your GS paper, the possibility of you clearing is extremely large. Now, I've told the marks, I've told about the clarity, I've told about how you can clear this. What kind of a test are we talking about? It is an objective test. A, B, C, D. It's just choose the best answer. That is the idea while looking at this exam. Now, one thing I found out is, while writing this exam, many people do get tensed about it. They are like, how can we write? How can we come in the top 10,000? These questions are too difficult. Let me tell you, be calm. While looking at the answer, just remember A, B, C, D. In those 4 options, one is your answer. You do not have to worry. A, B, C, D, A or B or C or D. There is a 25% chance that you will hit it right. Each option you can say definitely that is not right, increases your probability of success. This is common for all exams. Just have the confidence that in front of you, while sitting in that exam hall, in front of you, in A, B or C or D, your answer is waiting. And that confidence alone will give you the boost necessary to clear this exam. You just have to gather the knowledge necessary to support that confidence and get you through the preliminary stage. Now, what about the next stage? The mains exam, the written exam part. Mains exam was actually in the initial stages, only that was earlier present. It was not the prelims exam. But since the eligibility became graduation, the number of candidates who are applying for civil services increased so much that the government decided to frame a filtering exam so that people can just only the people who are the best of the best can write for the mains. That was the idea while creating the preliminary exam. So while you score good in the preliminary exam, while going for the mains exam, those marks are not at all calculated. Please remember, the marks of the preliminary exam are not calculated for the mains exam. What you score in the preliminary is just considered for clearing the preliminary. Those marks are not added towards the mains exam. So whoever clears the preliminary exam and is eligible for the mains exam, each and every one of them is starting with a clean slate. Let me tell you, your preliminary exams are not taken for calculating your mains marks. Your preliminary exam marks are not taken for calculating your mains marks. You start on a fresh slate for your mains. There is no other issue. You just have to sit and prepare for the mains exam and you can go. It doesn't matter you score 200 out of 200 in your preliminary exam. You are the person who was in the position of 10,000 while just clearing this exam. It does not matter. You are all beginning on a fresh slate for the mains exam. That is the idea. Now, mains exam, like I said, it is not an objective paper unlike the preliminary exam. It is rather a descriptive paper. It's a written exam. And there are 9 subjects while you are writing your mains exam. 9 subjects. And very similar to the preliminary exam, which has the CSAT paper, where you just have to qualify it, where you just have to score the minimum marks to qualify it. The mains exam also has 2 papers in these 9, where you just have to qualify. You just have to score the minimum marks to qualify. And those 2 subjects are the language papers. One is the English language and the other is the Indian language of your choice. you have to score the minimum in the English paper, you have to score the minimum in the Indian language paper to just clear it. So of these 9 papers in the mains exam, I've removed 2 language papers which you just have to pass, you just have to qualify. What about the rest of the 7? In that 7, 5 papers are common for all. 5 papers are common for all. I've just, if you look at the slide, it says essay, GS1, GS2, GS3, and GS4. General Studies 1, General Studies 2, General Studies 3, General Studies 4. And we'll go for the next option. I'll tell you at the last. So these 5 papers are common for each and every aspirant who's writing it across India. So what is that in essay? What is that in General Studies 1? What is that in General Studies 2, 3, and 4? General Studies, like I said, in the preliminary, General Studies have the subjects of history, economy, geography, polity, environment, science and technology, international relations, and current affairs. These are the same subjects which are present in the GS 1, 2, 3, and 4. But there are new subjects being added inside it. And unlike the preliminary exam, which focuses just on the objective type, here there will be questions asked, and you will have to write answers for about 250 words or 150 words within 3 hours to provide a much more holistic solution to a holistic answer to what they've asked. So this idea is to make sure that you have a very analytical skill. Again, what is the syllabus? Yes, the UPSC has given a very detailed syllabus on what you're supposed to study, what you're supposed to learn. I'll give a breakdown of what is that in GS1. So please bear with me. GS1 has 3 subjects: history, geography, and Indian society. So GS1 has history, geography, Indian society. GS2 has polity, governance, social justice, and international relations. Let me repeat. GS2 has polity, governance, social justice, and international relations. GS3 has economy, internal security, environment and disaster management, science and technology. Let me repeat for GS3: economy, internal security, environment and disaster management, science and technology. This is there for GS3. GS4 is something we may not have touched as part of our preliminary preparation, because GS4 talks about the subject of ethics. The idea is about ethics, integrity, and aptitude. So GS4 talks about has a syllabus which is related to ethics, integrity, and aptitude. We'll be looking into that. So I have just given a breakdown of the subjects which are there for the mains exam. The detailed syllabus is a bit large. You can get it from your online sources, or you can just contact the academy. We'll be really most happy to provide it for you. Apart from this, what is there in essay? Essay, there'll be a quote or a statement, and you will have to write an essay. Like many common essays that we have written since our school and college days, they'll give a statement or a quote, and we may have to we will have to write an essay about that. So that is also there in the essay paper. So I've told about essay, I've told about GS1, GS2, GS3, and GS4. What are the major subjects? What is your optional? So out of the 9 subjects, I've covered 7. 2 language papers qualifying, 5 papers which is common for all. The rest is the optional. Now the optional paper is one of the most crucial papers of your mains exam part of the civil services. What is that in the optional? The optional, like the word itself suggests, it is up to you to choose your optional. It varies between persons. Some can choose literature, some can choose technical papers like mathematics or mechanical engineering or medical sciences. Some can also choose humanities paper like public administration, sociology, or maybe even political science. It is all up to the aspirant to choose his or her optional. So the optional is up to you. Whatever subject you choose, there is a fixed syllabus for it, and that paper is separated into 2. That is there in the optional. So optionals have an optional paper 1, optional paper 2 of the same subject. For example, if you take public administration has paper 1, public administration has paper 2, and the syllabus is given in a detailed format. You can get it online. You can ask the academies. They'll be most happy to provide it for you. And these are present. You can use that. You can choose your optional based upon one's own personal choice. Now a doubt comes. Should my optional reflect my graduation? For example, I'm a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. My optional does not have any relation with engineering. So Is it necessary that one must choose the same optional, what one did in graduation? Not at all. It is up to one's own choice to choose his or her optional. So the choice is again left to you. But understand, optional has two papers, paper 1 and paper 2. So to recap the mains exam, it's a written exam, it's a descriptive exam. You have the essay paper, you have GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4. You have the optional papers 2, and you have 2 qualifying papers, which are language, Indian language and English. Now, this exam runs over a period of 5 days. So you'll have an exam in the morning, you'll have an exam in the afternoon, and this is how this is going to happen. So it is a very physically tiring exercise. And what kind of questions are they asking in mains? Mains question will not be, it's not just description, they'll be looking at an analytical approach you need. It's just not writing the facts about certain things. The questions will invoke the mind of the aspirants. The idea is to make sure that you think in a broader sense, you build yourself to a better level. I can give you a clear-cut example while saying that while many civil service aspirants are thinking of just learning and by hearting about books and getting all the facts and data, one must understand, much like the defense forces of our country, the civil servants in India are also groomed to take this place. One does not become a soldier or one does not become a military officer just by joining it. One has to build himself. The training is to build yourself into a into a military officer or a soldier. Similarly, civil services also expects people of caliber to come. So how do we make ourselves a people of caliber? How do we make ourselves, grow ourselves to that level? You need to start thinking analytically. You need to start thinking in a different, you need to start having out of the box ideas. You need to think better, think faster, think quicker. What you think in your mind has to translate into words in your paper. What you say and what you write must have a connection. Unless you can forge that, it is going to be very difficult to understand what is the demand of the mains exam. That is what has to be built during this process. So that is there for the mains. What about interview? It's not interview, it's personality test. What is there in the personality test? You clear the mains exam. So I told you the prelims marks are not taken for the mains. The mains exam, 9 papers, 2 papers you just have to qualify. Those marks are not considered for your total. But your optional marks, your 5 common papers, essay, GS 1, 2, 3, 4, all these 7 papers, the marks are total. And again, from the top, the people of these 10,000 people who clear the prelims, from the top, approximately 3,000 people are called for the personality test, which is conducted in Delhi. There you will be going, the dates will be allotted to you. You will have to be present over there at that fixed time. You will go for the personality test. Now, who is conducting the personality test? UPSC is conducting it. Who will be the interview chairman? Who will be the who's interviewing you? Who's there in the panel? Let me tell you, some of the highly placed bureaucrats, professors, and people who are present in the country will be the ones who will be, looking at you, looking at your personality. Now, do not think it's a simple Q&A session, but rather the idea is to make sure that whether your personality is suited for civil services. That is the idea behind the personality test. We'll go into detail about it a bit more. Let me just say the idea of the personality test is to make sure whether you're suited for a civil servant, suited for the civil service. It is not a test of knowledge. It is not at all a test of knowledge, because knowledge has already been proven when you clear the mains part. So you've already proven your knowledge by clearing the mains part. They just want to know whether this person, he or she is suited for civil service. And based upon that, they will put up a mark. So the final rank is determined by looking at your mains mark. They'll take your personality test mark, they'll add them together, and they'll create a list, again, from the top. So 3,000 people clear the mains exam. All of them went for the personality test. All of them got the marks. The marks of the people who clear the mains, along with the marks they received in their personality test, it is clubbed together. And the top 1,000 are taken. The top 1,000 are put up in a list, and those people whose names feature in the list, they are the people who have cleared the civil services exam. Their service will be the services of IAS, IPS, IRS, ITS, IAS, whatever it is, it will be allotted to them based upon the position they have and the rank they possess. That is the idea. That is how this exam works. That is how this exam works. So preliminary, mains, personality test, 3-part exam. The most difficult thing is this exam is a year-long exam. It's not very it's not very short exam. The duration is not small. You'll have to go completely through this process. It's a year-long exam, so that's a year. Now, you might think, what happens if I cannot clear the interview? What happens if you just miss by a few marks? Let me tell you, you'll have to start from again. You'll have to again start from sitting for the preliminary exam. You'll have to sit for the mains exam. You'll have to sit for the interview. That is something which can create a bit of difficulty for people who are trying for this. Let me tell you, the position that you're going for, it is much more difficult. You are expected to be the hero to the people. You are expected to be the guardian of the people. So it is necessary that one has the willpower and the determination to stand tall and try again till you succeed. So as a personally, on my personal suggestion, let me tell you, I couldn't clear the interview. I lost by a few marks. I have to start from again. But that gives me the motivation. That gives me the urge to again try again from the beginning. Build your foundation one brick at a time. And let me tell you, at the end, your empire will be forged. That is there for the exam. That is there for the structure. I hope it's clear to each and every one of them. What is there in the preliminary exam? What is there in the mains exam? What is there in the personality test? Now, there are certain myths and misconceptions about the exam. The question is, like I said, it's only for the people who are highly talented, for the extraordinarily talented gentlemen. No, not at all. It's for the common man. Because from the common man, you have to build yourself to be an extraordinary man. And that is the duty of and that is why the training is present. They do not want civil servants you don't have to be a born civil servant. Civil servants are made. You just have to train yourself to it. You just have to think towards it. And another problem is, what should we learn? The syllabus seems so vast. Is anything and everything under the sky can be asked? No. If anything and everything under the sky can be asked, why should UPSC give a syllabus? Why don't they just conduct the exam just free of anything? They can ask anything and everything, right? No. That is a fixed syllabus. That is a fixed syllabus while the UPSC has given a fixed syllabus for this. I told you the subjects: history, geography, polity, environment, science and technology, international relations, and current affairs. So many. That is a clear-cut syllabus for UPSC, and that is a clear-cut pattern that UPSC has been following. So it is not everything under the sky. Neither is it meant for the people who are toppers in their schools, toppers in their colleges, who are great achievers. No, it is not for that. It is for the people who are willing to put in the hard work. You may be the topper in school, you may be the topper in college, you may be a university rank scholar, doesn't matter. Unless you can put your efforts, unless you can make your efforts quantitative, but also qualitative, it is going to be very difficult for the aspirant to clear this exam. But if your work is superlative, if your work that you're putting in towards revision and towards your tests are perfect, there is nothing, there is no roadblock to stopping you from clearing this exam. What else? Not like university exams. Yes, in our university exams, we just write something related to the question, you get the marks. Nope, it's not like your university exams. You have to just write what is being asked, and you have to write it in a crisp, short manner. Let me tell you, your future aspiring civil servants, you will have to draft the policy, you will have to draft the reports, you will have to give a statement to the press, you might even have to determine a plan in case there is an emergency situation. Such cases, the ability to condense information into a small amount of words in a very short period of time is something that has to be trained and developed. So unlike the university exams where you can keep writing and writing and writing and fill the pages, that is not allowed over here. There is a fixed space allotted to you, and whatever thought, whatever words, whatever action you want to express to the examiner, you have to write it and fill it up within that fixed space available. So answer writing is a skill that has to be trained and developed. That is something that has to be developed. A flower has to be developed for that. And unlike the university exams, what you write something related to it, they are not going to give you marks. Whatever is asked in the question, only that you have to write. So that is a different thing. And again, it's not a factual, or neither is it like a quiz competition. Whatever questions they are asked, it requires an analytical mind. It requires out of the box thinking. How do you approach it? How do you approach this question? Why is this question being asked? And they will put you on the spot and ask you to determine whether this option A or B is right. And if A is right, justified by giving your opinion. If B is right, justified by giving your opinion. Or if you feel that neither of them or both of them are right, again, you'll have to take a stand. So mains exam is not factual. It is not at all factual. You will have to think, You will have to analyze, and you have to put up an answer within a very short period of time. So it is not like your university exams where you just put up facts and just put it down in an organized manner. Nope. You have to start thinking. You have to start thinking better. That is the idea for this, behind this exam. You have to be the best of the best India has to offer. Again, is it possible? Quite possible. It is quite possible. It is quite possible for you to build yourself to that level. You just have to put in the effort. You just have to dedicate yourself to that cause. And let me tell you, if you dedicate yourself to the cause, you can make mountains move. Finally, last point, not politics, but polity. We are not here to talk or discuss about politics. You are here to talk about the political system, the Indian system, the executive, the judiciary, the legislature, the assembly, the departments in our country, the ministries, the autonomous bodies like RBI, UPSC. We'll be learning about them. We are not learning about other things. We are not going to be learning about other things. We are not involving ourselves in the political affiliations or the political thoughts. Rather, we'll be learning about polity. That is the idea. So do not think that for a UPSC for a civil servant, one has to be thinking all about all these political parties and everything. No, you just have to learn the constitution. The constitution is something that a civil servant should have a very good idea about. That is also a myth which is considered that you have to be political. You don't have to be political. You have to have a sense of polity. You have to have a sense of polity to understand the UPSC civil service exam. So these are certain myths and misconceptions that we have. What is the required attitude and aptitude? Like I told you, it's not meant for the extraordinary. It's meant for the ordinary people. But can each and every ordinary person clear this exam? Yes, if he or she has the required skill set, attitude, and aptitude. So what is the required skill set, aptitude, and attitude? Perseverance. Like I told you, the ability to stick towards your goal and work towards your goal without stumbling at any time. If you fall, you have to get up, again start doing it. Small concerted efforts. Now, one of the major problems many aspirants face, and which they've all told me, is whenever the classes begin, the energy is there for the first 1 week. First 1 week, they are all filled with josh. They just want to ask doubts. They just want to do everything. They want to finish the entire syllabus in 1 week. Let me tell you, it is not possible. It's going to take some time. You will have to read the books. You will have to revise the books so that it sinks inside your head. You will have to do this practice for 3-4 months. We are a generation which demands instant gratification. You're willing to study for 1 week, you want the result. That is not going to happen. This exam demands perseverance. You want to clear this exam, it demands dedication. It demands perseverance. So you will have to put in the same effort you're putting for the initial week. You'll have to put in the same effort you're putting for the initial month over a period of 1 year. And even that may not be enough. You might have to repeat it for 1 more year. That is what this exam demands. Perfection, perseverance. If you can do that, this exam is in your pocket. That is what is needed. Then you need an analytical approach. It is not just looking at the books, just reading the books, just learning them by heart and just throwing them back onto the paper. No. You need to take in these points. You need to arrange them in your head. You need to understand the demand of the question, and you need to analyze what is being written. You need to be able to read between the lines. Political thoughts may be present in the book. Ignore that. Understand the core concepts. That maybe you will have to read editorials to get the opinion of different sides. You'll have to talk about the left, you'll have to talk about the right, you'll have to talk about the top, you'll have to talk about the bottom, you'll have to talk about the center, you'll have to talk about everything. So what is needed is an analytical approach where you can talk about each and every point and you can put forth your opinion, which is perfectly good for a civil servant. That is the idea behind the analytical approach. Finally, what does it matter? You put in the efforts, you have an analytical mindset. That doesn't help unless you have a discipline and commitment to studies. Discipline is of the utmost importance while one is preparing. Discipline is needed, both physical and mental. Mentally, it is needed because you need to start working from the initial days. Physically, it is needed because you need to maintain your health. Because if your health is not good enough, you won't be able to focus your studies. So discipline of both physical and mental is needed to make sure that your studies are perfect. And that discipline brings forth the final point, which is commitment to study. If you're coming for this process, do not take a doubt, do not have your doubts, stick forward, take a plunge, take the plunge, you're going to make it. Have that focused commitment, make it a goal, make it a life ambition that you want to clear this exam. But at the same time, understand that this is just one among the many careers. But unless you have a innate wish to clear it, you will not clear it. You need that innate wish. But is the innate wish enough? No. Everybody has wishes, but if wishes happen to everyone, this exam won't be this tough. You all have your ambitions, you all have your aspirations. What makes the people who make it successful? Discipline, commitment, hard work. So show the discipline, show the commitment, show the hard work. Is this all enough? No, you need somebody to guide you. Find your guide. Find your guide, people who have cleared this exam, people who have been through you, people who can help you out. Find them, they'll show you the way. Like I said, we titled this presentation as the pathway to civil services. Now you are stuck in a forest. You just need to clear this forest. There are so many ways, but understand each way. You can just take an axe and start cutting your own way out. But by the time you clear the forest, you may be tired, you may not even want to clear the forest, or you may even lose your energy by the halfway through. So it is necessary that you need a guide. A pathway is needed so that your efforts are reduced. Your efforts are only reduced. Nobody can replace your effort. Your efforts can be reduced. You can find a road, somebody who has already paved, and you can just follow that path. And through that, you can clear this exam in a much more comfortable way. That is the idea behind coaching and any other institution. Understand, find the pathway. Now, how do you prepare for the exam? So I told you what is the structure of the exam. I told you what is needed, what is the required skill set, what is the needed attitude. I told you what is the syllabus. Okay, so we are ready for all of this. What do we study? How do you prepare for this exam? First, get the syllabus. Your syllabus determines what you have to learn, what you have to study. Find the syllabus. Search online, ask the academy. They'll be most happy to help you. Once you get the syllabus, look at the subjects what are present. Like I told you earlier, history, geography, polity, environment, science and technology, international relations, and current affairs are all present. Understand them. The syllabus is there. Then, while the syllabus is present, what books should you read? Should you read all the books, or should I read specific books? Find the standard books. The standard books are like I said, this exam is based upon the 10th level or the 12th level. So your basic NCERTs are sufficient. Your basic NCERT books are sufficient. That will give you the necessary knowledge. Then what else do you need to get? You get your previous year question papers. See what they've been asking. See how the answers have been framed. See how they are asking. Understand, look at the NCERT, see where these questions have come up. Make a connection between the NCERT books and the previous year question papers. And once you get that connection, you'll be able to understand that, okay, this is what they're asking, this is what I'm supposed to say. This is what I'm supposed to study. This is what I'm supposed to write. And that is how you make sure that you do well in your preliminary exam, you do well in your mains exam, you do well in your personality test. Current affairs, like I said, current affairs, it's not going to be present in your NCERTs. You need to get your newspaper. Get your newspapers. Start reading today. Don't postpone for tomorrow. Don't postpone for the day after tomorrow. Start reading your newspapers today. The earlier you can start, the better it is. The moment this session is over, start reading your newspaper. I'd be most happy. Because newspapers form the core crux of your civil service preparation. Whatever you will read in your standard textbooks like NCERTs and others, it has to be related with your current affairs. You need your newspapers. Newspapers give you data about the current happenings around the world. They give you opinions. You need to get that. You want an analytical approach? Read the editorials of the newspaper. You need to know what's happening around the world? Read the newspaper. You need to know the current affairs? Read the newspaper. Your newspaper is your foundation upon which you can again build your civil service journey. So it is of the utmost importance that you read the newspapers daily without a break. Which newspaper should I read? Don't go for regional newspapers, because regional newspapers, the biggest problem is they focus just upon the region. We need to go for a national newspaper of repute. I leave the choice up to you. You can go for the Hindu, you can go for the Express, you can go for any national newspaper. Understand that they should be able to cover the entire news spectrum. They should not be isolated themselves to the singular part of the area or the region in which the news is being reported. So that is why I said go for any national newspaper, read them. Go for something which is English. Go for an English version, because most of you will be giving the exam in English, and it is of the utmost importance that you read the newspaper in English, because it has two benefits apart from your preparation. It will also improve your vocabulary. Now, many of us do face problems while talking in English or while writing our thoughts in English. So if you read the newspaper, There is a large possibility that you will understand the sentence framing, you will understand the words that are being used in the newspaper, and you can translate it into your answers. You can translate it into your speaking patterns. You can start using that to communicate more effectively, and thus make sure that you are doing justice to your preparation. So let me tell you, newspaper is completely necessary. Finally, what else do you need? You need coaching. Now, see, in the present scenario, unlike the earlier times while somebody had to go to some coaching hubs like Delhi or Hyderabad or Trivandrum, it is not. Now everything is available online. Go for it. Go for online, offline. I leave the choice to you. But again, you can ask, sir, is coaching completely necessary? Like I said, it's a pathway. The coaching institutes give you a pathway. You can take the axe, you can go inside the forest, you can start making your own path. But at the end of the day, you might lose energy, you might lose motivation, you may stop halfway through. But if there is somebody to guide you, you can save your time, you can save your energy, you will be focused directly, you will find the shortest route. But let me tell you, there is no shortcut to success. We can just show you the shortest route. The effort has to be put in by the person who is writing this exam. You need to put in that effort. We can just guide you. We can just mentor you. We can just teach you. The efforts have to be put in from the aspirant side. That is the idea of coaching. The idea is to just coach. It is not to learn you or something. It is just to coach you. We want to coach you towards your success. That is the just idea. Now, what are the challenges? I told you what is needed to be prepared. I gave you the idea of the exam. I gave you the syllabus. I told you what is needed to be read. I told you all the sources. So there are many challenges. So many people are willing to put in these many efforts. Why are they not clearing? The biggest problem is the challenges many face in this exam. This exam just happens once per year. It does not happen every month, just once per year. So if you lose out in any stage, the next attempt is in the next year. So your time is valuable. That is the biggest challenge people are facing. And this is 1 year-long exam. It's not like you can sit for your, this exam comes, you can start studying just 1 month before. Nope. You will have to prepare the entire year long to make sure that you are updated for this exam. Like I said, it's a percentile exam. They're taking the cream of the crop. Everybody is studying. Understand, if you're not studying, somebody else in some other part of India is also studying. So it is of the utmost importance that you start studying and you keep studying and you keep studying till your goals are achieved. So since it's a year-long exam, you'll have to study the entire year. Another thing, distractions, personal, social commitments. We all are people, we all live in a society which is interconnected with each other. So we all have our commitments, we all have other distractions, and this can make sure that your preparation gets hampered sometimes. You can face your health problems, you can have other issues, personal issues, and this will affect your preparation. So that is a very big challenge which many aspirants face. The last before thing is lack of proper guidance. Like I told you, I can leave you with an axe inside the forest. You can start cutting down trees without looking towards a specific direction, and this is going to be a problem. So you need the proper guidance, or you will be stuck in this process. You will be learning the same books, you will be looking at the same things, but you may not be able to clear it. That is a big problem which is happening. So you need proper guidance. And finally, you need the support of your family. Your family should be able to support you, both mentally, physically, financially, all of that. That's needed to make sure that you do not stress yourself out. So these are the challenges you need to face, and these are challenges you need to overcome and ensure that they do not happen to you, to make sure that your goal is successful. What are the benefits? Okay, sir, I'm starting to prepare for civil services. I'm looking at all this. What is the benefit I get? Social awareness. You're going to be reading so many books, you're going to be reading the newspaper so efficiently and effectively that you will become a well-rounded person who has a very clear-cut idea of what is happening around the world, what is happening around the society, and you will be having your knowledge, your thought process, it will all be taken to the next level. You will become a well-founded personality. You will become a leader among people. That is the first idea that civil service opportunity offers you. You'll be more socially aware. Your personality will be developed. And this is one of the most toughest exams in India, gentlemen and ladies. If you can prepare for this exam, let me tell you, all other competitive exams are just something you can easily clear this. You just have to prepare yourself for this. You just have to modify it a little bit. You can clear your other competitive exams. And Once you have finished learning for all this, the eligibility for higher studies is really, really possible. Once you clear your civil services, you're inside the service, there's a large possibility you can even study further at some of the top universities in the world, Harvard, MIT, top colleges, top universities, because we need more specialists. We need people of caliber. You don't have to stop your higher studies ambitions. Clear the civil service, there's always an opportunity for higher studies. Even if you don't clear it, you learn all these things. Your higher studies opportunity is always waiting for you, because by then you'll have a much more better rounded personality. You will understand what you need to do. You'll understand what you have to study, and you'll have a better idea of what you have to learn. And that is one major benefit that civil services offer you. And before going for this Q&A session, let me just reiterate what we've been discussing. I told you about the civil services exam. I told you what are the civil services present, what are the services present, what you can offer to the society. I gave you an example of Mr. Pame Armstrong, who has been a wonderful IAS officer serving the people of India. There are many other examples. I just quoted one because if I have to start telling you the incidents and experiences that I've been through, it'll take this entire day to explain the personalities that I've had the opportunity to meet and I've had the opportunity to interact with. So I've told you about Mr. Pame Armstrong. There are other, I told you about the syllabus. I told you about the structure of the exam. What is the demand of the exam? What is the required mindset? What are the challenges? What are the benefits? So this is the idea for civil services. It is not meant for the extraordinary. It is meant for the smart worker and the hard worker. It is meant for the dedicated. It is not meant for the lazy. And you may think, sir, I scored very less marks in school. I scored very less marks in college. Doesn't matter. You just need to be a graduate. You can begin from today. You can begin right now, and from here you can change your lifestyle. Understand what is needed is discipline and commitment. Your intelligence, everything matters, but above and beyond all that, your discipline and commitment is what is going to make a change towards achieving your goal in civil services. So this is the idea. Now, what is Amrita offering? Like I said, we've been there since 2015. So it's been 5 years. We have 50 plus selections. We have offline, online courses. Since the coronavirus pandemic has happened, we have a complete online course available. So you may think like, sir, is online really effective right now? No, you said you needed an analytical approach. You said you needed a more, you need to start thinking out of the box. Is online classes going to be enough? Yes, online classes are enough. Whatever is happening in offline, we are just taking a class. We are just shooting it. We will be having webinars. We will be having sessions where you can interact with the faculty. Definitely it's going to help you out. It's very similar to offline session. And once this lockdown scenario and once the country's health infrastructure has improved a better, the situations change, definitely the offline classes will be continuing. So you can go for it, check it, look at your ambitions, look at your aims, see whether you're willing to take the plunge. We'll be most happy to help you out. So with that, I'd like to conclude this presentation. Thank you all for joining us. You've been a wonderful crowd and audience. I look forward to hearing your queries and questions. So please put them up and I'll be most happy to answer them right here, right now.
Thank you so much, Siddhi. I think it was a very inspiring session, very motivation. I wish I would have got this session 5 to 10 years back so that I would have applied for the civil services. But yeah, really motivating. Not much questions that I've got from the chat, but if anyone want to unmute themselves and ask any question to Sibi or to the Amrita team, please go ahead. Let's have one person at one time. So anyone has any question? I guess we have one.
Yes.
I'll just, yeah, let me just a second. Okay, what is your opinion in writing exam in regional language medium, especially Malayalam? Most of previous aspirants are not encouraging. Why? I'm not sure. It's from the Delta. Yeah.
Okay. So the opinion on writing exam in regional language is not a problem. It's your choice. The problem many aspirants do not encourage it is because since you're writing in your regional language, your study material and notes may be difficult to be sourced in the regional language itself. Since many of the subjects focus upon the language of English, it might be a little bit difficult to write in regional language. But if you feel that you are more comfortable in your regional language than in English or other languages, feel free. There is no restriction on writing in your regional language. It is quite possible. I personally know people who have cleared with their regional language. It is not an issue. You are most welcome to write with your regional language.
Okay. I do
Yes.
not have any other questions, Sibi, but I have a question. Like, for example, if a person is not based out of Kerala, Sandhya, could you please mute yourself? Thank you. Sibi, if a person is not based of Kerala, is Amrita providing any online classes as well? Is that
Yes.
an option?
Yes, yes. You just have to contact the academy. We'll be most happy to help you out. Since it's online, the world is connected. We'll be happy to send the videos and the links wherever it is needed. So you don't have to worry about that at all.
Thank you. Let me see
Yes.
if there's any more questions.
Yes.
Sir, I have heard that now there is only one optional paper. Is it true? I'm asking this because you said there are 2 optional papers in the mains.
Okay, that is just one optional subject that you have to choose. That subject is separated into 2 parts. For example, much like during our school days, we have mathematics 1, mathematics 2, English 1, English 2. So it's the same subject. It is just separated into 2 papers, paper 1 and paper 2. So it's just one optional paper, but optional subject, but the papers, there are 2 papers in that. So it's just one optional that you are learning.
Okay.
Is this clear?
Any question on that CB explained right now? Okay, I'll take it as a no. Next question. Explain about attempts for all categories. How does they count? It's from Purushottaman. Yeah.
Okay, so Purushottaman, the general category students have 6 attempts. OBC have more than 6. I believe it is 9. I'm not very clear on that. And they do have an age relaxation. SC/ST candidates also have an age relaxation, and that is an unlimited number of attempts as far as I'm looking into it. So I just wanted to just say it with the general category because that is the minimum. Understand that everything is there over that, so you don't have to worry. Understand the idea is not to sit for 6 attempts. It is to clear it in your first attempt itself. So I just want to say you have 6 attempts if you're on the general category. You have even more if you're on the other categories. Your maximum age limit if you're the general category is just 32. So even if you're at the age of 32, you can just take 1 attempt. That 1 attempt is enough. That's more than enough. You just have to put your energy. You need a guide. You can definitely clear it.
Thank you so much, Siddhi. I think the next question is from SG Nair. Would you correct essay answers online?
Yes, we'll be providing feedback to you online. Whatever you write, whatever answers you provide, please send it using a scanner or just send a scanned copy of your answer. Our faculty over here will be correcting them. Your feedback will be given to you either through voice notes, or we may organize a session where you will have a face-to-face interaction with the faculty. So there's no difficulty in doing that.
Okay. Moving into the next question. Would you UPSC examination preparation possible without giving job? This is a question from Shankaran Namburi.
Okay, I didn't get the question. Can you please repeat it, ma'am?
Is the preparation possible without leaving their current job that they are in? Is that possible?
Yes. It is quite possible for working professionals to clear it. I personally have a friend who was in a MNC firm and he cleared it while doing his job. So it is quite possible. That is why we are providing an online platform. Use that, see the videos. You just have to spend a few dedicated hours. Like I said, it's all about dedication. If you can spend just 3 or 4 hours, more than enough. You have 24 hours in your day. Take the time for your rest, take the time for your work. The rest of the hours, just focus upon it. Definitely you can clear this exam. Use the online platform. We'll be most happy to help you. It is quite possible. Let me guarantee that it is possible.
Sibi, parallel to that, there is one more question from Mojida.
Yes.
I'm a banker with private sector bank and put up resignation for preparing for the UPSC. I have a 1-year-old kid. Shall I go for online or classroom mode? Please suggest.
So it again depends upon one's personal situation. So since they are they have a family to take care of, so if they feel that they can come for an online class, we'll be most happy to accommodate. But right now in the present situation, since the coronavirus pandemic is happening, offline class are not really scheduled right now. Currently everything is online, and the choice I would believe is up to them, because their personal situation is something only they can evaluate. But either is fine. Either of them is fine. You can go for, depending upon one's own personal commitment, they can go for either offline or online.
Thank you. Sri Lakshmi has a question. I think I will answer that. Is there any way we can contact SIBI personally? So we have a Amrita's helpline number. I think I can share that once the question answer session is over, and you can contact them and they can help you with whatever questions that you have. So I think Sri Lakshmi, we are clear on that part. Moving next, SIBI, the next question is, sir, is it advisable to take core subjects of our graduation as an optional subject? That's by Cherry Crazy.
So personally, I believe if you are good in it, you believe that is a good choice, feel free to go for it. Again, it is a personal choice. So your optionals can depend upon one's own taste and perspective. I understand that many people may have chosen a subject for your graduation based upon your thoughts when you finish school, but later on you found out that you may not really be that good with your subject that you passed out in college with. So in that choice, you can go for another optional. You feel that you are really good with your core subject which you have taken for your graduation, you can also choose it. There is no difficulty in it. Optionals are many, they are varied, they are all available.
Thank you, Sibi. Next question from Gautam. Other than our NCERT textbooks, are there any other notable books to be used? I think these are some of the random questions. Any other books that you want to pass it on to the audience that they can refer to?
Okay, so NCRTs are the foundation. So it's much like building a house. The brick and the mortar or the cement is the NCRT. So unless the NCRTs are good, if you go for other subject-specific books, it's going to be a bit difficult for the person, for the common man, to understand what they're talking about, because they expect a basic sense of knowledge from the person who's reading these books to understand. Of course, there are standard books, and if I have to say them, there are many. Personally, I would say that begin with your NCRTs, and once you're just thorough with them, or once you're at least familiar with them, please contact the academy. They'll be happy to send you a book list or something. So I don't want to say any specific names because it may seem contradictory to each other, because certain other people may have different opinions. But my personal suggestion, stick to NCRTs. Once you're familiar with them, you can go for your specific books. Please contact the academy, or you can use your online resources.
Okay, thanks for that, Sibi. Sibi, one question I have is the online classes that you mentioned. Will that be a live classes, or that can be accessed afterwards in form of a recording or something?
Yes, they'll be they are available for they'll be recorded earlier, or maybe even certain sessions may be live if we have certain guest speakers, but generally they'll be recorded, and all of their queries and doubts will be cleared later on, either through using social media platforms, or we'll organize a seminar where webinar similar to this. We may organize a webinar where the students themselves can interact with the faculty and clear their doubts which they see during the videos. So actually we've started 3 or 4 batches. We've started since April, and we have an exclusive online platform so that you don't have to worry about whether this is possible or not. We already have it, and we also have new batches starting on June 24th, and we also have a new batch starting in July. So you don't have to worry about it. In the present scenario, we are offering only online classes, but once the lockdown is over, you can shift to an offline class, so you don't have to worry at all about it. It's very similar to an offline class, and we also have an exclusive online program. If you can choose either of them, and there will be faculty interaction. You don't have to worry.
Okay, and there are many questions on the fee structure. I'm not sure, Sibi, if you would like to take that up, the fee structure for these courses.
No, it depends upon each aspirant and their demand. So frankly, I would say it'd be better to contact the academy, because they would be the office department would be having a much better idea and able to give a very clear structure about the fees and the other scholarships if any are available.
Yeah, so we have shared in the chat window, if everyone can see, we have shared the number for the queries on the online courses. So you can get in touch with this number. We will ping that again. So you can get in touch with them, and they can help you with those fee structure or any other questions that you have. I think 1 or 2 questions more that I'll pick it up. How should a college student start preparation? And one more question parallelly is, can we find +1, +2 class along with a IAS coaching in Amrita School? If it is, where? So these are questions are from Aishwarya and Shrija Vinod.
Okay, let me address the first question. How do you prepare while you are doing your graduation? So while you are doing your graduation, it is of the utmost importance that you finish your graduation properly without any delays. So first, give your priority for that. While at the same time, what else can you do to make sure that you have the edge while preparing for civil services? My personal suggestion, while doing your graduation, start reading your newspapers. Make it a habit read your newspapers thoroughly. And what else can you do? Your NCERT books are available online for free. You can get them from your libraries. You can get them online. You can buy them. Start reading them. Get a basic foundation upon them. Don't focus upon the big things. Just build your foundation. Because if the foundation is strong, upon that, it's very easy to build up. So during your graduation, focus upon your graduation. They are really important because that is the minimum eligibility criteria. Finish your graduation on time. At the same side, make newspaper reading a habit and start reading your NCERT books. They'll give you a good foundation. And what was the second question, Sumi? Can you please repeat that for me?
Sure. I think it was, just a second. Can we find +1 and +2 class along with IAS coaching in Amrita schools? If it is, where?
Okay, so I'm not really sure about it. You might have to contact the academy. I don't think it's happening right now. So you can just contact the academy for further details with regards to that.
Thank you. Thanks, Sibi. So, team, I will not be taking up any more questions. Reason being, we have crossed the time that we have taken for this webinar. So, any further queries, you can contact the Amrita team on the phone number, which is 85890600000. And if you want to send them an email, you can also send them an email at contact@amritaias.com.